Welcome to the Will and Aaron Show with William Kramer, my co-host Aaron Bontrager. We cover local sports, including the NIC and NLC conferences, plus teams in St. Joseph and Elkhart counties. We also cover college and pro sports. In today's episode, we will recap high school football Week 4 and preview Week 5, discuss big things happening in the college football world, talk about the NFL, and the South Bend Cubs playoffs. Aaron, let's start with our first topic, high school football Week 4 recap. And what a week we had in local high school football. A lot of great action. Let's start off with Fairfield's big win over 6A Southport, 21-12, according to the Elkhart True. This is their first ever win against a 6A opponent. Southport, however, did make this a game. They cut the lead 14-12, but Ethan Schmucker scored from a yard out in the third quarter for the final score. And the Falcons start 4-0 for the second time in 3 years.
Yeah, big win for Fairfield. They're rocking and rolling, undefeated. That triple option's hard to prepare for and stop.
Absolutely, Aaron, it is. And 2 years ago they went 9-1, or they 9-0, right? And had a really great start. So I don't know, maybe will we see a repeat of the hot start continue throughout the season? We'll see. So the next game we want to recap is Jimtown 20, John Glenn 12. The Jimmies got off to a fast start in this one thanks to some good field position. They led 20-0 at halftime. John Glenn's passing game got going in the second half and made it a closer game down the stretch. But when it mattered most, Jimtown's defense made plays to secure the win. Coach Barron was not too pleased with how his team came out in that first half. Jimtown was focused, disciplined, just played really hard from the get-go. And once John Glenn woke up, it was kind of too little too late.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Stoner, and good week for him as he showed some good sportsmanship and got a nice write-up about that. Big win for the Jimmies. They got to build on that performance and looking like they're improving, ready for their conference play.
Yeah, so what Aaron's referring to is Week 3. Jimtown played Osceola Grace.
Yes.
And it was like 64-0 or something like that. It was an incredible high-scoring game for Jimtown. And the last two possessions for Jimtown, head coach Corey Stoner took 8 consecutive knees to end the game. Which, wow. I mean, I applaud that. That's a lot of class. And well done, Coach Stoner. So, New Prairie 34, Marion 14. Aaron, this game was actually closer than the final score. New Prairie jumped out to a 14-0 lead in the first quarter. Marion battled back to tie it up in the second quarter. No one scored in the third quarter. The turning point in this game was an interception off of Marion's quarterback, Lassane. And that led to New Prairie's go-ahead touchdown to make the score 21-14. They added another touchdown in the fourth quarter off of another Lassane interception. So, and then at the very end of the game, when the game was already in hand, New Prairie scored again. So, 34-14 final for the Cougars.
Yeah, I was flipping around on IHSATV.org, and I came back to this game, and it was out of hand. But, yeah, it's a big win for New Prairie, for sure. They're rolling right now.
And they flipped the script in a way from last year when Marion put the beat down on them. I think it was like 33-0. So great revenge game for the Cougars. St. Joe 21, Adams 14. St. Joe raced out to a 21-0 lead. And Adams made a ferocious comeback. Just came up short. And with seconds to go in the game, Adams actually had the opportunity to tie the game. And was stopped. Jeremiah Love was stopped. Time ran out on the Eagles. And the Indians came away with a thrilling win.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to see that final drive. Man, yeah, the shout out to the St. Joe defensive line. They got in there and stopped Love. It was a very close game there at the end. There's a couple penalties that went, can't remember exactly, but there was some questionable calls. But what a win for St. Joe. They got the win. All right, let's move on to the NLC. So first up, talk about Northwood's 42-7 win over Northridge. The Black Crunch defense was opportunistic in this one. Northwood they scored on 2 fumble returns for touchdowns, and they also recovered 4 of 6 Northridge fumbles. One of the fumbles was scooped up by J.J. Payne and returned for 6, as well as Caden Lone scooped and scored as well. And then the Panthers' offense, of course, was rolling again. Owen Rader had 3 touchdown passes to a trio of receivers, including Tuggle, Parker Philly, and Wes Yoder. And then Ethan Evers, the Ball State commit, had a powerful goal line touchdown run that a lot of people were talking about on social media. I guess it was pretty electric. Next, Will, did you have anything about that game?
Yeah, I was just thinking as you were talking, Northridge is not that bad. Well, you look at that score, and if you're not from the area or, you're somewhere else, and you're like, wow, Northridge is terrible. But they're not that terrible. Obviously, what they did in Mishawaka, they hung with Alcart for a little bit. It's any team that has 4 turnovers off of fumbles, it's going to be hard to win games and compete. So, as we mentioned the last few weeks, we knew this was going to be a tough stretch for the Raiders. The Elkhart, the Mishawaka, then have to play Northwood. I just think, mentally, it just takes so much focus, concentration. You have to be on your top of your game for 3 straight games, and the physicality, and it's just a whole lot to deal with. And it just maybe caught up with them that last game. Yeah,
definitely. I think Coach Epley was quoted as saying, they came prepared, we didn't. It's pretty simple, but yeah, so Northridge will be looking to rebound next week. The second game, Mishawaka 37, Goshen 6. The Cavemen controlled this game pretty much early on. They forced the Red Hawks to punt, then marched down the field on a 13-play drive, their first drive. They didn't really look back after that. Novell Miller scored the first and last touchdown for the Cavemen on an 11-yard run and a 3-yard run. Goshen did have some good moments, special teams-wise, couple good returns, and a touchdown run from Adam Ellison when the game was already decided. Mishawaka is a tough and deep team that was just too much for Goshen. Oh. Next up, we got Wawasee 45, Plymouth 28. This game was a little closer than the score would indicate, especially in the first half. Wawasee opened first on a 7-yard touchdown run by Hunter Tinke. Then Plymouth would recover a Warrior fumble and score on a 45-yard touchdown drive of their own. And then the Pilgrims would block a Wawasee punt and score on a 4-yard run to take the early lead in the second quarter. However, Wawasee would regain control from that point on. They scored on a Brandon Cully touchdown run, a Jackson Brown to Tinke 56-yard strike through the air, and then Derek Bontrager had a 63-yard pick 6 on defense. So Wawasee would lead at 28-14 at half, but Plymouth would try to come back in the third, but Wawasee countered every step. So shout out to Wawasee. They get their first win. I know it's been a tough start to their year, as well as for Plymouth. So both teams showing some heart and improving each week. Next up, we got Warsaw 19 and then Concord 0. Tigers get their first W in Dunlap since 2009. Michiana Football on Twitter had a great stat that the Tigers are on a streak of holding teams scoreless for 10 straight quarters. I'm sure that puts them in the top defenses in the state. They controlled the line of scrimmage again, rushed for 242 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Quarterback Grady Nolan was back in action and scored the first Tiger touchdown. And the Tiger defense held the Minutemen to a total of 103 yards. They forced 4 fumbles as well. All right. Next up, we're going to preview some Week 5 action. I'll start with the NLC. We have Plymouth 0-4, 0-2 at Mishawaka, who's undefeated at 4-0 and 2-0 in conference. Like I mentioned earlier, Plymouth was able to make some bigger plays on both sides of the ball against the Warriors, but this is a different matchup and team in the Cavemen. I like Mishawaka to win this one. They have an established identity and culture. They're just too deep and physical for this Rockies team. The second game is Concord 1-3, 0-2 at Wawasee, who is now 1-3 and 1-1 in the conference. Concord has faced 2 of the better teams in conference play so far, which is important. Wawasee will have to play better on special teams and take care of the ball to get the win. However, I think Concord will get this win here. Their defense should be able to make it hard on the Warriors. Wawasee has improved each week, but I think Concord should be able to establish some much-needed rhythm on offense and pull away in the second half. Then the next matchup is Northridge, who's now 1-3, 0-2 in the NLC at Goshen. Goshen is now 1-3 and 1-1 in the NLC. Both teams coming off tough losses. This is the first game between these two schools with Coach Wagaman now at Goshen. And not to mention he is coaching against his former team in the Raiders. These are interesting storylines, but I like Northridge to respond and get the win. I think Goshen can make it interesting, but just too much depth and physicality from the Raiders in this one. I think this is a crucial game for Northridge. I think they will limit the miscues they had against Northwood and come ready to play this time.
So, wow. I mean, as a Northridge Raider, I have to ask you, I mean, it seems like that they're both from Elkhart. Do you consider this a somewhat rivalry game or not really?
I think historically, no, but I would say probably maybe the end of my high school career, or not career, but when I was in high school, we kind of stole a few games that we shouldn't have won. Yeah, it'd be interesting to get that perspective.
So, I feel bad for Goshen because Northridge is going to be in a not-so-good mood this Friday. And I understand that Coach Wagaman is doing a good job at Goshen, and they've been competitive in some games. But I wouldn't want to be facing Northridge this Friday, just to say that.
Yeah, then one of the biggest games in the state next week is Warsaw 4-0, 2-0 in the conference at Northwood, who's also 4-0, 2-0 in conference. What a matchup this will be. Maybe the biggest game for the NLC conference. I know the following week there's another big game. So this has huge stakes in it. Both teams are ranked. Warsaw in the 6A class, and Northwood is ranked in the 4A. We'll see how far they get bumped up. Both teams are averaging around 37 points per game, and Warsaw is giving up an average of 3.5 points a game, while Northwood gives up about 10 points per game. So it's going to be an interesting battle all phases of the game. Warsaw has dominated teams by running the ball, and Northwood is doing their damage mostly through the air, but they can hurt you on the ground. This is a tough one to pick because you can make the case for either side. I think I'm going to go with the Tigers in this one. I think this will be an excellent game and close to the end.
This is, like you said, a ginormous, huge NLC game. I would imagine that it will be a packed house at Northwood, standing room only kind of game. And in a game like this, where you got two really good teams, I should say, the margin for error is so small. I mean, a few mental mistakes here and there, costly penalties, maybe a turnover, could potentially determine the winner of this game. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a battle of wills. Like, who's going to impose their style of football on the other team?
Yeah, definitely.
Can Coach Curtis and his running game, have long drives or score running the ball? And then, Warsaw, I don't know if you did any digging on what their secondary or their pass defense is, but they're going to be challenged. I mean, I don't know if Warsaw has played a team yet that has the aerial attack that they're going to see this Friday.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Michigan City, but I would say that's probably been the best passing team they've faced so far. Yeah, I think that's, can they slow down those Panther receivers that have just awesome playmaking ability.
Yeah, so should be a dandy. We'll see how that turns out. All right, so let's turn more to the NIC plus Fairfield here. The Falcons are 4-0. They go on the road to play West Noble, who is 3-1. West Noble averages 162 yards rushing, 92 yards passing, and West Noble has had recent success against the Falcons, winning 5 of the last 6 matchups. Fairfield has a trio of runners that should cause West Noble some problems. Brecken Moran, Carter Kitson, and Ethan Schmucker. I think Fairfield should be favored, but wouldn't be surprised if West Noble pulled off the upset. I am going to go with Fairfield winning a close game on the road to notch their 5th win of the season.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one too. I think Fairfield has something going right now.
So West Noble, their only loss is to Class 4A Angola on the road. And their Angola is better this year. And they do have a win against Eastside. It was close. And, of course, we all remember that Eastside went to the semi-state last year. It went 13-1. The only loss was to eventual state runner-up Andrean 59ers. So, they're not a bad team. West Noble is not a bad team. So, it should be a good game. Next up, Jimtown. Overall record is 2-2 in conference. They're 1-0. They're on the road at Bremen, who is 2-2 as well. And in conference, they're 1-0. If you're a Bremen Lion fan or a Jimtown fan, this situation might seem eerily familiar because, well, last year it was the same situation. So, it was just at Jimtown last year. Bremen has been a hard team to figure out. I mean, blowout losses to LaVille and Triton. A surprising win against Marion. So I don't know what team is going to show up this Friday. But this is a rival game. They don't like each other. Jimtown needs to show improvement in their pass defense. I think the second half against John Glenn just kind of, if you're a Jimtown fan, makes you a little worried, especially with Bremen being a more balanced offense. The Lions have struggled defending the run really all year, and I think Bremen will bounce back and play better this week. They're pretty tough to play at home. But I'm going to pick Jimtown to win this game. I think they do enough damage on the ground, and I think they make the stops defensively when it really counts to win probably going to be a close game and a huge North-South Conference win.
Yeah, I think you nailed this preview here. I think I like Jimtown too, but should be a good game. Hopefully that rivalry edge to this will make it a good one to be a part of.
So we have Penn, who is 2-2 overall. This is their first conference game. And then you have Elkhart, who is 4-0. Also their first East-West conference game. This is a huge game. Rice Field will be rocking for this one. This is a must-see game if you're a local. Even if you're not an Elkhart or Penn fan, it's just like football. I mean, this game is one of those you need to go to. And Elkhart is off to their best start in school history. The Lions' defense has only surrendered 13 points so far. I do favor Penn's strength of schedule over Elkhart. They've just played better opponents. This is Elkhart's first real test of the season. No offense to the other teams they played. And it's a preview of a potential Sectional 2 showdown. The winner of this game has the inside track in winning the NIC East-West Division. As I said, Penn has been battle-tested. Their performance against Cathedral, I think, still holds weight to me. Last year's contest between the two teams, Penn won 31-3. I don't anticipate a blowout like last year. I think it's going to be a closer game. But I do like Penn to win this game and to move to 3-2 on the year.
Yeah, this is another huge game that the state will be watching, I'm sure. I kind of like Penn too. Should be a good game. Hopefully not a blowout like last year for sure.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot, Aaron. Let me ask you this. If you had to pick which game is bigger,
Ooh.
Northwood and Warsaw or Elkhart and Penn?
Man, I think I would say, oh man, I think this one's bigger because the NLC is really down to 3 teams, I think. So you can't have a three-team game. So I don't know if that makes sense, but I think this one will probably mean more for the conference just because these are the 2 best teams.
So this is like a de facto title game in a way for the NSC.
It's kind of weird to say that this week 5. Yeah. Man, that's a good question because that Warsaw Northwood game is huge too.
It is. Both are big games. Okay, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to talk some college football headlines.
You can listen to the Will and Aaron Show podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube and like our videos. Follow us on Twitter at Will Aaron Show. You can follow the Will and Aaron Show Facebook page where you can interact by commenting, liking, sharing, and reviewing our podcast.
Well, welcome back to the Will and Aaron Show. We're going to move on to our next topic, college football headlines. Wow, what a week. The football world was shook up with some big upsets. And let's start off with maybe the biggest upset. That is Marshall, 26, took Notre Dame, 21, took down the 9th-ranked team in the Irish. Marcus Freeman made some history, unfortunately. Became the first Notre Dame head coach to go 0-3 to start his Notre Dame career. Gotta go back to last year and when he coached the bowl game and they lost to Oklahoma State. It was Marshall's first top 10 win since 2003. Tyler Buckner struggled for most of the game, completing just 56% of his passes. His 2 interceptions were costly, especially the 37-yard pick 6 that sealed Notre Dame's loss. Marshall's head coach is a Nick Saban product and is a rising star in college football. And now it seems as if he has the Thundering Herd rising as well.
Yeah, this Marshall team, kind of interesting. They had 48 new players, whether freshmen or transferred in. And like you mentioned, Will, this is not the first time they knocked off a top 10 team. They did it against number 6 Kansas State in 2003.
So Notre Dame, that loss dropped them from number 9 in the AP poll, which just came out today, all the way down to number 36. So huge drop there.
All right, next game is Purdue 56, Indiana State 0. Aiden O'Connell completed 17 of 19 passes and threw 4 touchdowns in a dominating win. Charlie Jones had a big game receiving, catching 12 passes for 153 yards and hauled in 3 touchdowns. Purdue bounced back nicely from last week's loss.
You know, this is one of those games you expect a big win. Purdue delivered. Good job, Boilers. Indiana Hoosiers, they kind of struggled in that first half. I know the game was delayed because of heavy rain downpour. I don't know if that had anything to do with coming out flat or maybe the fact that they were playing Idaho. But Idaho last week nearly knocked off Washington State, 24-17 loss. And the Cougars, Washington State, just beat Wisconsin this week. So that should have gotten IU's attention, but it did not. It came out flat, and Idaho led at halftime, 10-0. But Coach must have said something at halftime because, wow, that third quarter, the Hoosiers woke up and exploded, and then they hung on. Idaho did do a little bit in the fourth quarter, but IU came up with a win there. So, the only college football team in Indiana that's still undefeated, Indiana Hoosiers, 2-0. Just got to say that. Feels good to say that.
Nice. Number 20, Kentucky beat Florida 26-16, a battle of 2 quarterbacks that are getting a lot of attention from the NFL world.
So the Kentucky quarterback, Will Levis, has been getting quite a lot of accolades from, or I should say high praise from NFL scouts. He's an accurate passer. He can throw out the needle, and make those long passes down the field. He had over 200 yards, 1 touchdown. Went into the swamp, wasn't impacted by the environment. And Kentucky, well, they did what a Coach Stoop-led team does, which is play power football, complementary football, and they did so against a Florida team that shocked the world last week. So, what a great win if you're a Kentucky fan. Might not make Coach Calipari happy. Just kidding, of course. But, I don't know. Maybe Coach Stoop and his boys took that to heart. I don't know if that's added a little motivation or not. But football, good times for the Wildcats for sure.
The next one was quite the game as well. Number 1 Alabama 20, Texas 19. I woke up just in time to see kind of the important moments at the end here. The Longhorns would score a field goal to go up. And then I kind of felt in the moment that it was too much time left. I think there was like a minute 30 or something. And then, of course, Alabama does Alabama things. Bryce Young looked like he's sacked. He gets away. I mean, it was it was hard to watch that. I was like, what just happened? Big picture-wise, I think it shows that Alabama's beatable maybe. And Texas shows they can play a physical team because they look just as physical up front as the Roll Tide.
Coach Saban, as he always does, he points out the truth. and he did not like the 15 penalties. I believe it was a record for him, for one of his teams to have that many penalties. Just Alabama came out sluggish and didn't play very well. So, I mean, I don't want to take away credit from Texas. They came out and did what they needed to do. It just came out a little short. Ewers was hurt in that game. He got pulled at first half or maybe third quarter. At some point, he got pulled. So credit to the backup for coming in there and being able to keep Texas in the game. So Texas did jump up big in the polls, and we're going to talk about that later. Washington State 17, number 19 ranked Wisconsin 14. This was at Wisconsin. Talk about a surprising win for Washington State. This was a good win, not only for the Cougars, but let's face it, it was a good win for the Pac-12. I mean, the Pac-12 needs any kind of victory at this point, Yeah. So, I did watch the highlights in that game, and Wisconsin defense uncharacteristically just struggled to defend the pass. I mean, Washington State kind of just spreads you out. And they just made key plays at the right time. So, good win for Washington State.
Next is number 24, Tennessee beat Pittsburgh. Number 17, Pittsburgh, that is, 34-27. Pittsburgh probably feels like they lost this game more than Tennessee won this game.
Yeah, Aaron, this is just a tough loss for Pittsburgh. They had a fourth down conversion that didn't go their way, and they didn't get points on that possession. They were ahead, a costly turnover. It's just a game I felt like they controlled, really, for the most part, and then Tennessee made enough plays down the stretch to kind of steal this win away from Pittsburgh. Appalachian State 17, number 6, Texas A&M 14. I tell you what, App State does it again. They are giant killers. I mean, we're old enough to remember what they did against Michigan in 2007. They've had a couple of upsets sprinkled throughout since then. What a week for the Southern Belt Conference.
Yeah.
Marshall and App State, and so great win for Appalachian State.
Georgia Southern 45, Nebraska 42. After the loss to Northwestern, Nebraska does it again, and Nebraska fires Scott Frost.
So as of this recording, they actually fired him today, and I think anybody else, and we kind of were talking about this before our show, anybody else would have gotten the axe sooner. But because of who he is, what he means to the University of Nebraska, the fact that he was on the last national championship team as a quarterback, they gave him more time to turn this thing around. And I feel like Nebraska handled this well. I'm going to applaud the administration, especially the athletic director. I actually listened to the press conference today. Very gracious to Scott Frost. They understand what he means, and they want that relationship to continue. I think it's interesting that they made a move now versus waiting till after October 1st when his buyout decreases a whole lot. So by fire him now, they're paying him more money to Scott Frost. So Nebraska, I think the 1-2 start was just too much, and they were really hoping to make this work. but you can't lose that many games at a university like Nebraska, and even for a guy like Scott Frost, eventually his time came. That was today. Number 21, BYU. 26, number 9, Baylor. 20 and 2 overtimes. I actually watched the majority of this game. It was a late game. I wanted to finish watching the whole thing, but I actually fell asleep on my couch, so I didn't watch the last couple of minutes. Actually, I missed a whole 2 overtimes, to be honest. But huge win for the Cougars in Provo. They knock off one of the contenders for the Big 12 championship. A lot of people are talking about the Baylor Bears as potentially winning the Big 12. So, great win, and BYU is rolling right now. Let's take a look at the AP poll that was just released today. We have a new number 1, that is Georgia. They jumped Alabama. The biggest movers in the poll were Kentucky, jumping 11 spots to number 9. BYU jumping 9 spots to 12, and Tennessee jumping 9 spots to number 15. The largest drop was Texas A&M, dropping 18 spots to number 24 in the country. Actually, Notre Dame was the biggest drop. They dropped completely out of the poll for number 9. So, college football can't miss games for this coming week. Of course, we're going to mention IU because there's a lot of IU fans. So, 2-0 Western Kentucky comes to Bloomington to face 2-0 Hoosiers. This game will be on the Big Ten Network at 12 o'clock noon. Aaron, Western Kentucky the last few years has been pretty good offensively. The same is true this year. ESPN has Western Kentucky as the higher percentage to win this game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's surprising, isn't it? This game scares me as an IU fan because I didn't like what I saw offensively last game. And I'm not confident that if this becomes a offensive war, that IU could keep up with Western Kentucky. But at the same time, the Hilltoppers have not faced a Big Ten defense like they're going to see this Saturday. So, who knows? Maybe IU's defense can cause enough problems for the Hilltoppers, and maybe IU wins a close game here.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty big game for IU. They got to win this one if they want to go bowling.
Go bowling, and why can't we just be 3-0 for the Cincinnati game? Is that too much to ask as an IU fan? Let's just be 3-0.
Yeah.
All right, the next game. We're always going to mention Notre Dame, of course. We're here in Irish country. 2-0 California at 0-2 Notre Dame. This is a 2:30 game on NBC. Who would have thought we'd be saying 0-2 Notre Dame facing their 2-0 California team? I believe this was your 5th game on your list of top 5 games you wanted to see.
Yeah, not for the reason it is now, but I mean it's an important game now more than what I thought it would be.
I'm not too confident Notre Dame can win this game at home. I don't know what to think anymore after what happened last week. But all joking aside, I think Notre Dame will regroup this week. I think they're going to have a really good practice. And I would expect to see a more competitive, disciplined, a better start to the game for Notre Dame for sure.
Yeah, I mean if you're an offensive lineman, they got to play better too. So, and defensive line for that matter. Yeah, definitely gonna be one to watch for sure.
So 1-1 Purdue goes on the road to face an undefeated 2-0 Syracuse team. This is a noon kickoff on ESPN2. ESPN has Syracuse favored, Aaron. I don't like Purdue in this game. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think I'll go with Purdue as well, but Syracuse is known to, knock off knock off the teams that are favored.
Clemson comes to mind, right?
Yeah.
What do they call the Syracuse home? Is it the Carrier Dome, right? I believe it is.
Oh, yeah.
The Carrier Dome. That's an interesting place. I've never been there. That'd be a neat just to watch a game. Like if Notre Dame went to play at Syracuse, I'd want to go there and watch a game at Carrier Dome.
I believe we watched the time where Syracuse knocked off Notre Dame in the snow. You remember that?
Yeah, that was back in our Bethel College days.
Yeah.
Ah, that was a painful memory.
Sorry to bring it up again.
Yeah. It's funny because when Marshall upset Notre Dame fans were automatically thinking about, is this the worst defeat? And of course, the Syracuse loss came up in the on Twitter and just in conversations I had.
Yeah.
I wanted to forget that Syracuse Notre Dame game. Okay, 2-0 Penn State. They're ranked 22. They go on the road to face SEC Auburn. They're also 2-0. This might be one of the best games of the weekend, Aaron. This is a 3:30 start on CBS.
Yeah, that's an intriguing one.
Who do you got?
Oh, man. I think I'm going to take Auburn because they're at home.
Okay. I'm going to disagree with you. I like Penn State. Coach Frank Glenn has the Nittany Lions playing on a high level right now. And that win at Purdue was impressive. Purdue's not a bad team. So I'm going to go with a road win in a hostile environment in a close game. But the Big Ten beats the SEC. And I'm going to have a smile on my face when that happens.
I like your confidence. That'll be a good game.
2-0 Michigan State, ranked number 11. They go on the road to face a Pac-12 team in Washington. They're also 2-0. This is a night game. This is primetime TV, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. Sparty kind of has quietly returned their program to pretty solid. Of course, we remember when they made the college football playoff. What was that, 2015, 16? I can't remember what year it was. But they had a stretch where they were really, really good. Can they take that next step, Aaron, and win a non-conference, one of the better Pac-12 programs and be 3-0 and maybe jump into that conversation of, I don't know, it's just really, really tough team.
Yeah, I think they'll win this one. I think they have something building there in East Lansing for sure.
So the last game we're going to highlight for next week is 2-0 Miami. They're ranked 13th. They go on the road to face number 24 Texas A&M. They're 1-1. This game could have been bigger. It kind of lost some luster after A&M's upset against App State. This is a 9 o'clock start on ESPN. I would like to think that Jimbo Fisher is irate right now, and I would imagine that they have one of the best practices they've ever had. I think they bounce back, and this should be a really good game. But it would not shock me to see Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes coming into College Station and win a just tough, really gutsy performance type game. The crowd's going to be crazy, as they always are, the 11th man. This is a must-see game at 9 o'clock. It's going to be fun one to watch.
Yeah, I think Texas A&M got served some humble pie, which a lot of people thought they could be one of those teams to make the college football playoff. So, yeah, I look for A&M to bounce back.
Okay, so our next topic is college football playoff expansion. The 11 the CFP presidents voted unanimously to expand the 4-team playoff to 12, beginning in 2026 at the latest. Of course, there's a lot of discussion, Aaron, that they're trying to get that to 2024. If they can't do that, then at least 2025. Inclusivity to the playoff drove this decision. College football has become increasingly regionalized, with the southeast part of the country the most successful. Of course, we're talking about the SEC here. College football is a national sport, and remaining at 4 CFP teams does risk losing fan interest and support across the country. I would argue that that's already beginning. I mean, college football on the West Coast just is not the same as, even in the Midwest, and even the Northeast part of the country. I mean, who's good there? Boston College used to be a solid program. I can't think of a team in the Northeast that's even, relevant right now. So there's a problem, and I think the college presidents, the big, powerful people that make choices are recognizing this, and this is why we see the sense of urgency right now. The NCAA basketball tournament is so popular, Aaron, because of the possibility of the Cinderella story, right? The small upstart team, the mid-majors, if you will, winning against the elites, the blue bloods. And you just don't have that in college football right now. I mean, it's like the same teams win over and over again. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State. Even throw Notre Dame in there. They've been in there a couple times, So the sport needs national appeal to remain relevant. So let's talk about the details of this new 12-team format here. So the playoffs go from 3 games to 11. For the first time, FBS postseason games will be played on campuses. We'll have 30 to 35 teams be in competition for playoff berths at the beginning of November, as opposed to a third of that, or even less now. More teams means more fan interest, which elevates the sport. I think ACC commissioner said it best when he said that if you have access to the playoffs, you will stay relevant. Your donors will care. Your fans will care. The schools will make the investment because they have a chance to compete. And that's all they're asking. It's just give me a chance. That's going to be the key to everything. It's what the AAC commissioner said, and I think that he said it well. So, Aaron, how's the college football playoff conference revenue sharing going to look like?
Yeah, so the Big Ten and SEC will get the most money, followed by the ACC, Big 12, and Pac-12. The group of 5 will split the remaining money. And then the 2-loss factor, another part of this will be Minnesota in 1960 and LSU in 2007 are the only 2-loss teams to win national championships in the history of the game. In expansion, there will regularly be 2-loss, even 3-loss teams in the playoff field. It might become a situation of who is hot at the end of the season, not who is necessarily the best all year, similar to March Madness.
There was a picture someone posted on Twitter once the news came out that they want to go to 12 teams. All the teams that would have made the college football playoff in years past, since they expanded to 4 teams, it was an interesting list. I mean, you think about it. IU, if they had this new format, would be in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, that would be crazy.
Boise State, TCU, Hawaii. I mean, just go on and on and on. I mean, we gotta have these kind of games.
Yeah.
It would bring so much more fans into the equation. It's just a win-win.
Yeah, definitely. And then the seeding, how will the seeding work? The top 4 highest-ranked conference champions receive byes. Seeds 5 through 12 play first-round games on the campus of the higher seed. The quarterfinals and semifinals will be played in bowl games on a rotating basis, and the championship game will be at our neutral site.
Aaron, give me this 12-team format in 2024, please. I'm hungry for this. I want to see this happen. And, it's going to work out because you still get some of these big bowl games, like the Rose Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, etc., on a rotating basis. So I like this format. I think this is a win for a lot of reasons. Increased revenue, increased fan interest, more access. I mean, we think about recruiting. Now you got more teams to say, hey, come to Indiana, come to Notre Dame, come to Purdue, because you're going to have an opportunity, you're going to have a chance to make it to the college football playoffs.
Yeah.
Think about all the schools that in their gyms, they're going to have a banner that says 2024 college football finals. What that means to that school, that community, and, when you bring a recruit, show them that banner. I mean, this is a game changer for college football. It needs to happen sooner than later.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, the possibility of legitimate upsets are going to exist. This is going to be a good thing. The best teams are likely to rise to the top. Someone asked on college football show on ESPN, they said, when you go to 12 teams, are we going to see new teams in the championship game? And the response was, probably not. You'll still see Bama, your Georgias, your Ohio States. I am going to press back a little bit on that because the simple fact that you now have to win potentially a first round game, the quarterfinals, semifinals, and then the championship game. Right? So that is enough games to have a significant injury to a significant player. It opens the conversation of having a bad night, and the other team just way more motivated. Look at Texas, Alabama this weekend. No one saw that coming. So I don't buy the fact that people say, oh, it's just going to be the same teams no matter what. Because I think that we're going to see some upsets, and it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it should be fun. Something to look forward to for sure.
So, inclusivity will dramatically change the sport of college football in a good way. And American sport is now open to America, the way it should be. Let's move on to our next topic, Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers. Aaron, when they lost to Florida State, a lot of people were making fun of Brian Kelly. It was just an onslaught of just memes, and he took it. There were a lot of angry LSU fans. I get it. They're passionate about football. It's the SEC. The quotes, they care more about football than, we do up here. But people have to understand that this is a process. Coach Kelly has been successful at every stage and level he's been at. Grand Valley State, Cincinnati, Notre Dame. And he's been doing this for decades.
Yeah.
There's a reason why they hire him in the first place. Sure, is he a little socially awkward at times with the whole dancing and changing his voice, accent to sound more southern? Okay, I get that, whatever. But when push comes to shove, he's a good coach. I respect him for that. And LSU just need to have patience. Because these are not his guys. And they have a lot of issues on that roster. They have talent, don't get me wrong, but they have some systematic problems. They've got some issues with guys not wanting to be on the same page as Coach Kelly and do it his way. It's going to take time to build that culture and create it and be able to sustain it. So they did bounce back in week 2 and had a really solid, dominating win. But they're going to take some lumps this year. And until Coach Kelly gets his guys in and can really kind of have his culture sustain and his DNA in there, that's when he's going to, I think, you're going to see a lot more consistency down there in Baton Rouge. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're going to finish out our last 2 topics, talking about our NFL headlines and our Southland Cups.
If you are enjoying our podcast and want to donate, please find the donation link in our show notes. Any donation, no matter how small, will make a big difference in helping us bring you better quality podcast shows.
Welcome back to the Will and Aaron Show. We're going to move on to our next topic, NFL headlines. So officially week 1, we're excited to have NFL back. It's been great. A lot of surprises, Aaron. NFL has parity. It's fun to watch. And fantasy football's back. So
yeah.
Indianapolis and Houston tie. I think that stunned a lot of people because Indianapolis was a 7-point favorite going into this game. The Colts had a slow start. They were down 20-3 as late as the third quarter. They scored 17 unanswered points to force overtime. The Colts had an opportunity to win it in overtime, but missed a field goal. And so they end up in a tie. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I saw the score at 20-3. I was like, what? You never know in the NFL, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the response that most people have. It's like, really? You tied with Texas. Now, Jonathan Taylor had a big game. He had rushed for 161 yards, scored a touchdown. Pittman had a nice game receiving, 21 yards and a touchdown. Kind of a shaky start if you think about Matt Ryan, and he's a veteran. I expected him to have a better game, and he may have been the biggest surprise for me. Yeah. And plus, their Colts kicker, he's pretty good. He had two or three kickoffs go out of bounds to give Texas the ball at the 40-yard line. I mean, in a game like that field position was huge. So, just a lot of mistakes by a lot of Colts, penalties, just... So we'll have to see what they do next week. Next games, Chicago 19, San Francisco 10. What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, this was another surprising outcome for me personally. Justin Fields had a solid second half to lead the Bears to a comeback win. He had an 8 for 17 game with 121 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. The key play was a 51-yard pass to Dante Pettis, a former 49er, kind of in a make something happen type play, something that pretty, if you look at Justin Fields' highlights, pretty similar type play. The initial play breaks down and he finds someone, so a huge play. And then the new addition, St. Brown, had an 18-yard touchdown pass in the third to put the Bears up 13-10. Then Eddie Jackson picked off Trey Lance, which set up Khalil Herbert's and the Bears' final touchdown when he ran it in from 6 yards out. Coach Eberflus wins in his debut in a soggy Soldier Field.
Yeah, what a win for the Bears. That surprised me. I thought the Niners would win that game. So that's awesome, man. The Bears get a huge win at home. The Cleveland Browns get the final laugh against Baker Mayfield and the Carolina Panthers, 26-24, and what was Baker Mayfield's attempt to get revenge. That's headline. Carson Wentz, former Indianapolis Colts quarterback, gets a huge win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 28-22. He threw 4 touchdown passes. So if you're a Colts fan, you gotta, I don't know, maybe feel happy for him, but at the same time, are you feeling buyer's remorse? I don't know. It's a long season. Probably way too early to say that. Next headline is Jameis Winston leads the Saints from a 16-point fourth-quarter deficit at Atlanta, and they still win 27-26.
The Steelers get a huge win at Cincinnati, knocking off last year's Super Bowl finalists 23-20 on a game-winning field goal. And the Steelers' defense was all over the field in this one.
They had 5 turnovers in that game. Cincinnati committed 5 turnovers. Hard to win a game doing that.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson declined Baltimore Ravens' $250 million extension offer. He wants a deal fully guaranteed at signing. The Ravens walked away from the table and restarted talks after this season.
You know, that just tells you where we are in the NFL, where a player can reject a $250 million offer. I just wish somebody would offer me $250 million, Aaron. I would gladly accept that any day.
And then the Texans honor Uvalde football team by hosting them at the game, which was a special moment this weekend.
Yeah, that was such a nice gesture by the Texans, and what a moment for that community after all they've been through, and then the ordeal they had to go through. So we wanted to mention that. The biggest can't-miss games for next week. We got 4 of them. Thursday night football, we got the Chargers 1-0 at the Chiefs 1-0. Should be a good game. A lot of offense. I think of the Chargers quarterback, Justin Herbert, former Oregon quarterback. Then you got Patrick Mahomes at the Chiefs. This would be a great quarterback battle, Aaron.
Yeah, that's a really good game to start off the week. Then Sunday at 4:25, you got 0-1 Cincinnati at Dallas.
Sunday Night Football. This is a great first Sunday Night Football game. The 1-0 Bears at the 0-1 Packers, Lambeau Field. Rivalry game. Justin Fields and Aaron Rodgers. What else can you ask for Sunday Night Football?
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. We'll see if Aaron Rodgers still owns the Bears in this newest season.
I hate to say it, Bears fans. I am talking as a Bears fan. This may not look good come Sunday night.
Especially them coming off a loss.
Yeah, they're going to be angry about that. And Aaron Rodgers, when he's angry, it's not good news. All right, and our last can't-miss game for NFL, Monday Night Football, the 1-0 Vikings at 1-0 Eagles. This should be a fun game. Two organizations are proud organizations that win a lot. Should be fun.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give the slight edge to the Eagles being the home team.
And our last topic for this episode, we're going to talk about the South Bend Cubs. Made it to the playoffs, Aaron. We are in the playoffs. So this is the divisional round. The Cubs will host Game 1 at Four Winds Field on Tuesday, September 13th, with the first pitch at 7:05 against the Cedar Rapids Colonels. The Cubs go on the road for the second game, and if there is a Game 3, then that will also be at Cedar Rapids. The postseason is a best-of-3 divisional round, followed by a best-of-3 championship. So really, to win the championship, you just need to win 4 games.
Yeah, and the Cubs have the South Bend Cubs have the best home record in the league. The Cubs are in the playoffs for the second time in 3 years.
Lance Reimel, the manager, likes the way the team battles. The South Bend Cubs is the high A affiliate of the Chicago Cubs. So should be interesting to see what our local Stockton Cubs can do. It should be a fun environment because it might be a sellout. Thank you for listening to episode 7. Tune in next week as we recap and preview high school football. We talk about college football, NFL, Major League Baseball wildcard race, talk about Albert Pujols 700 chase, and give you an update on our Stockton Cubs playoffs.